talks from the crypt.
So Kit Carson had called me, again, very early 1986.
And he wrote the screenplay.
He wrote the screenplay for Chainsaw 2. And he, he sent me the script. I read the script. I thought it was hilarious. I called him up. I said, this is just hilarious. This is great. He goes, oh, really? You like it? We're all, everybody is insecure. And I thought it was fantastic. I thought.
Do you think
hilarious.
you inspired that? The comedy edge to it?
I don't think so. No.
I think you did. Because you sent him Texas Chainsaw Manicure.
Yeah, that's true.
There was the long break.
Yeah.
By then he had done Eaten Alive, Invaders from Mars, and Poltergeist. Three pretty serious movies.
Yes. He hadn't done Invaders from Mars. I guess he had, because he had a 3-picture deal with Canon Films. And one of them was Life Force. I think the next one was Invaders from Mars, because I think he was editing that on the set of Chainsaw 2. And then the third, the crown jewel, was going to be Chainsaw 2. And Canon Films, I'm sure, had expected Chainsaw 2, a chainsaw, because the famous Chainsaw Massacre, greatest horror movie ever made. They expected they were going to, really cash in on a sequel to Chainsaw. So anyway, so Kit Carson was very happy that I liked the script.
How did you react to the comedic tone at first?
I thought it was hilarious. I liked it a lot.
You didn't think it steered a little too far away from the first one?
Well, it's interesting because years later, after we did Chainsaw 2, I was at a party in Los Angeles, standing around a pool outdoors and talking to Toby. And that was the first time that Toby told me that he considered the original Chainsaw a comedy. I did not think it was a comedy.
Mm-mm.
I thought it was the scariest movie I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And
objectively not a comedy.
Yeah, not a comedy. So that kind of blew my mind. So the fact that Chainsaw 2 would even be more comedic and a lot bloodier, of course. There's no real blood in the original Chainsaw. There's a lot of insinuated blood and violence, but you don't really see any blood. And then to bring in Tom Savini, king of splatter, to do the special effects makeup on Chainsaw 2 was, going way, committing, to an extreme and a different direction. But no, I don't think the Manicure necessarily influenced Kit and Toby. But as we were hanging up, Kit said, "Well, we'll be in touch." So hung up the phone and thought, what does that mean? Still got to pay the rent. And it's funny because I don't know, like a week or two later, not even, I got a call, and it was from the Canon Films legal department. And there was a woman on the phone, and she said, yes, do you want to negotiate your contract? Do you have an agent, or do you want to negotiate your contract? And I was thinking, what contract? What are you even talking about? And I was somehow, agile enough to come up with the line, let me get back to you. And
that must have felt good.
So I was thinking, what are they talking about? What are they doing? What does this mean? But I remember at a Christmas party, maybe a month or two earlier, I had met an agent from William Morris named Risa Shapiro. And so I thought, well, I better give her a call. So I called her up, and I guess I had made enough of an impression so that she took the call. And I told her the situation. I said, Canon Films has called me up. They want to know if I have an agent or want to negotiate a contract. And she said, "Oh, great! I'll call. Give me the number. I'll call him back, and on your behalf." And so she called me back. Risa called me back and said, "Well, they want you for this part, this character called Chop Top." And I went, "Wow, that's amazing." And she said, "Yeah, I mean, I think she prefaced it by saying there's good news and bad news." And she said, the good news is they want you for this part. I was like, wow, that's amazing. That's like a mind blower. She said, yeah. And she said, I said, well, what's the bad news? She said, well, it's a character with a plate in his head. There's prosthetics. So they want you to shave your head. And I went, okay. She said, so I told them you were a working actor and that would, put you on the shelf for 6 months. So they agreed to pay you $5,000 to shave your head. And I'm like, wow. She said, plus, she said, they're only going to pay you scale plus 10. And I didn't really know what that meant. And I said, well, how much is that? She said, oh, I don't know. I think it's $1,600 or $1,700 a week. And I was like, what? Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah, and that's still great money today.
I mean, again, I was having trouble making $285 rent every month.
Yeah.
So that was crazy talk. And so that was it. I mean, they wanted me to shave my head. They were going to give me an extra 5 Gs. And that was the beginning of my, now acting career.
How'd you prepare for such an active role like that? I'd imagine that's a difficult role to fill for your first actual job ever.
Well, I had no idea what was going on. I mean, to me, I was just in some kind of weird cuckoo land. I went down to Austin. They flew me down. That's when I met Tom Savini. That's when I called his makeup shop the House of Pain.
So you knew who he was at the time?
I didn't really know. No, I didn't really know Tom. But I do. I think maybe I did a little bit. I'm not really sure. But I was not prepared to have my head shaved. I mean, I went down. They said, "Hey, how's it going? Here, sit in that chair." And then they just got out the shears and just electric shears and just shaved my head. And it freaked me out because I'd never had my head shaved before. And I come from a family of where there's male pattern baldness. And so, losing my hair was always like a childhood phobia. And then just seeing myself with this shaved head was completely weird. And then before I could even really think too much about it, they took this whole bunch of plaster. I think they called it alginate. They had made up this wet plaster, and they put 2 straws in my nose and then just basically packed plaster on my head. So my whole face and head were encased in plaster. And they said, just don't swallow. And it takes about a half an hour for it to set up. So just don't swallow.
Jesus.
And I was like, whoa,
you
what?
Probably never wanted to swallow more than after they
Well,
said that.
I had no, it was a complete freak out. I'd never been encased in plaster before and couldn't swallow. And of course, when you can't swallow, of course, you want to swallow. And I did swallow. I don't think it really made that much difference, but it was, but what I did was I remember, and I had to sit there for a half an hour with plaster hardening, completely enclosing my head, and had to sit there and wait for it to set up. And I remember that I went into some kind of a meditation. I started thinking that I was on the bottom of the ocean. I was just there quietly, still breathing through the straws in my nose. And but I just remember being very calm and just went to a calm place. And finally, time was up. They broke open the head mold, so they had a positive of my head, and they took the mold and they filled it with plaster, and they created a bust, head and shoulders of me. And it's so funny because I was just in Pennsylvania. I was in Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago at a convention. And Tom Savini invited me over to his house in Pittsburgh. In his garden, there is the original bust of me from Chainsaw 2.
Just set up like a lawn gnome?
It's a lawn gnome. It's been outside for 36 years, whatever it's been.
So what's the condition like?
I have a picture of it here, actually.
I'd
I don't know
love
if
to
I
see
can.
it.